to, share when it comes to the spiritual community too, is like so many people paint this as like, it's just light and love and it's all good. And it's like, yes, there's a lot of light and there is a lot of love, but there's also, like you said, there's shadows, there's darkness, there's so much that comes up when you start to actually realize like there's so much more to you. And I say that with encouragement, not to stop you, but understand the resistance is real. There is a lot that will come up that will try to essentially block you. And you just got to keep going, because what we resist persists. So it's like pushing past in a loving way with that resistance, feeling the fear and doing it anyway. And understanding that, for me, something that really helped me was like, fear is false evidence appearing real. I had to write that down, honestly, Lynn, like 100 times. So I got that through my brain, was like, this is not real. And the difference, obviously, right? There's fear and there's real danger. But like the fear that our brain is continuously, that subconscious program that's telling us over and over again, it can't happen, you can't do it, there's no way, whatever it is, the limiting beliefs, we all have them, from family and ancestors to our own beliefs. It's like you have to feel that fear and do it anyway.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Soulthentic Podcast. My name is Lynn, the host and creator of Soul. And today I have a very special guest joining me today, Ali Levine, who is known for being a world-renowned intuitive, stylist, TV media personality. I also know Ali as a breathwork guide, a mother, an angelic guide, and so many other things. You are truly a multidimensional being. And I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today to just talk to you about your journey. How did you get to all of the medicine that you're putting out to your community, how you are the person you are today. So thank you for coming on the podcast. Without further ado, Ali, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. And thank you for that beautiful introduction. And, I always tell everyone, they're like, wow, you do so much. And I'm like, I think we're all multidimensional beings. We all do a lot, even if we don't have the quote unquote titles, I think it's like we do so much these days. And I think especially also as mothers, moms obviously wear so many hats that they're not even giving themselves credit for. So it's like, to me, I'm just like, hey, I'm Ali, and I love to help people, dive deep into their soul through the different ways that you explain the different medicine that is out there. Because I think obviously being here on the Soul Podcast, like it's all about the authenticity of you and realizing who you are with God, with Source, and being able to connect back to that is the true medicine that is within us. And I think that's what so many are missing right now.
I love that. And, I saw this quote that is on your website, and it says, I am here to guide you in your soul expansion. So let's feel it so we can heal it and shift it. Ali, tell me more about that.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So, when I say soul expansion, like to me, it's like expanding into all the parts of who you are. I think so many people go into, and I know I did too, into the world of like, oh, what's wrong with me? Shaming themselves, judging themselves. And it's like, we're doing it all wrong. It's like, let's collect back all the pieces of ourselves that we unknowingly gave away for the most part. And sure, maybe parts we did choose to give away, but it doesn't really matter. Let's get present and feel into what are all those parts that I'm missing of myself, and bring those fractals back to my soul of who I am, connect back to God and my true being, so I can feel everything I need to feel with love, with grace, with ease, and then release it. And this is where, breath work became a massive modality, in my life and in my journey. Was I had done so many different types of mindset work. And though mindset work is amazing, and I think it has a ton of benefits, I do feel when we don't connect mind and body, and I know you're on the same page, Lynn, is like there's a disconnect. There's a real disconnect that happens. And I believe that is because that is how we are divinely made. It's all about every part of us. And we compartmentalize so much when we do give away so much of ourselves, and we shove it all down and we think, oh, I just hid that in a place and it's not going to come back up. And it does. And where we store it is in the body and essentially in our nervous system. And our nervous system is our operating system of our entire being. And I believe, that is the way we, are created for a reason. Like I go back to being a mom of 3 and watching my babies be born. And, every child that's born into this world, including us, as we breathe into the belly and into the chest and out. And that is the divine way of breathing. That is a homeostasis, a rest and digest place of our body, a parasympathetic nervous system for those that love the
Yes.
science terms. And what happens
Yes.
to us over time when we give these parts of ourselves away and we get into a triggered state and we experience trauma and tragedy and all these things, we
Mm-hmm.
think we store it, like I said, and we shove it down, but it goes to the nervous system. And the nervous system over time becomes an unsafe place, unfortunately. And we start to experience that fight or flight, which is the sympathetic, and maybe even some fawn, which is people pleasing, or a mix, and could also be freeze, where you're just truly either functioning in freeze or you're just frozen and you're not functioning at all. And it could truly
Mm-hmm.
be a combination depending on your experience. And for me, it
Yes.
was more of the fight or flight constantly in my life for many years, of just this constant triggering and this constant of like, I'm fine, but then I'm not, high cortisol levels, just high
Yeah.
adrenals, like everything was just super, super high. And then it was like super low. And it was this kind of wild roller coaster that
Mm-hmm.
coasted on for quite some time, especially in the celebrity styling field, until honestly, God kind of told me enough. It was like, mental health is suffering. Things
Mm-hmm.
are not working for you. You're so focused on the ego. You're so focused on, how do I look to the outside world? How am I
Mm-hmm.
showing up? And you don't care enough about you and actually loving
Yes.
you and who you authentically are. And that was
Mm.
honestly the beginning of my journey, of what led me into then postpartum depression and anxiety, for those that know, when I became a mother, and all of these things that I had to, and I speak to feeling it, I had to truly feel all that darkness, go through all of
Mm.
it in order to find the light at the end of the tunnel, in order to heal what I was
Mm.
going through. And I believe so many of us suppress the feeling because we don't
Yes.
want to experience, right? We're taught that joy and, euphoria and, happiness and all these things, that's what you want to experience, peace and calm. And don't get me wrong, I love those feelings too. But life is the dark and the light. It is being
Yes.
experiencing both. It is understanding how to go through both. And the more we can kind of also normalize, in my opinion, that these emotions that we go through are truly energy and motion. Maybe some people have
Mm-hmm.
heard that before, that we can normalize that this is all energy that we're experiencing. And we can allow ourselves to kind of go through that coasting and that dance. And it takes time and practice. And that's where breath work for me really started to teach me, once I kind of healed the trauma on a deeper level and continued to heal and evolve on a daily basis. It's helped me to really drop in and be like, okay, what I'm experiencing right now is maybe not fun in the moment, but I can move through what I'm going through. I can feel it in this moment instead of shoving it to the side. I can allow myself to
Mm-hmm.
release it and then move back to that higher frequency. And I think that's where so
Mm-hmm.
many of us do get stuck, because we just try so hard to climb back to that high
Yes.
feeling. But it's like, no, no,
Yes.
no, it's coming up for a reason. Let's not keep suppressing. I said this to a client the other day. I'm like, what you're suppressing is to, creating that depression, and you're not allowing your
Mm-hmm.
expression. And we need to
Mm-hmm.
get the expression to come through you. Right. And so I
Yes.
think that's a major dance. And I've learned, and breathwork has really helped to teach me that.
Wow, Ali, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing all of that. It's like lighting me up. Like I'm getting so, I mean, our conversations in the past have always been and always led us to talking about the nervous system, talking about this mind, body, spirit connection. And what
Yeah.
you're saying is so like pivotal, like so vital right now for many of us to hear, is that like it's actually the time to go to hold yourself with so much compassion, hold these emotions, these things that you feel afraid of, and you feel like you almost, we have this culture of like bypassing what we're experiencing, what we're feeling. But actually, your nervous system, what I'm learning from a Chinese medicine perspective, it's all communication. It's all your body's way
Yeah.
of sending you a message like, this is what is triggered me. This is what is challenging. And depending if it's a fight response, if it's a flight response, freeze or fawn, you know, for me, I can say, for an example, oftentimes, like if something triggers me and I'll get anxious, I actually have to carve out the time to sit with that anxiousness, like create some
Mm.
space for those feelings to come to be. And when I am able to create space, when I'm able to sit and feel the sensations that arise with that anxiety, it actually moves through my body and I'm able to process that emotion. This idea of processing our emotions, sometimes we don't give ourselves enough time to sit, process, and integrate. But actually, that's what we need. We need to digest those things. Like our
We
stomach
do.
is digesting our physical food, we also need to mentally, emotionally, and spiritually digest what's happening to us in our life.
I love that you said that you sit with it because, again, I think we're just not taught how to do that. And we're actually taught quite the opposite, aren't we? We're taught in school to
Yes.
just keep going, worry about everyone else's feelings. And not to say, of
Mm-hmm.
course, other people's feelings are important, but it's like, what are you experiencing right now? Like I'm trying,
Yeah.
obviously, as a mom of three, to do my best to be present with this and be, being super real and vulnerable right now. Like my daughters, will get into it. And I'll say, to one of them, I'll be like, Arlie, that wasn't kind, what you did to Amelia. And I understand you're frustrated and I want you to feel that frustration. Now let's breathe through it and talk about it. But that doesn't mean, you say and you do the thing you did to her. And then it's like when Amelia gets mad and sometimes she'll lash out, I'm like, Amelia, like, you're the oldest one. I know you're experiencing your emotions too, but like, how can you show your sister how she can, handle her emotions better and then try to guide her through? But it's hard, it's like in real time watching your kids, fight and get, anxious and argue. It's like you also, I don't want to be a hovering parent. I want them to experience and know how to move through their emotions. But when I see they're both stuck and they're stagnant and they're just kind of like stuck in that energy, I want to help them flow through it. And that's where I'll sit with them and be like, okay, let's breathe. Let's, move through this. Let's talk about what's going on. And I want you to tell me what you're experiencing. And I actually been teaching Arlie, because she's my most sensitive. I've been teaching her, like, where do you feel it? And a lot of times she'll be like, my stomach, I feel it, or my shoulders, and I'm like, okay, well, then that's where you need to feel the emotion. That's what's coming up for you. So when you were saying, Lynn, about the body expressing and it coming up, it's true. I think we're learning more and more now this idea of, disease, and I put it in quotes because dis-ease in the body. And, for so long, so many are like, oh no, this is just something, you just get sick. And it's like, but we're seeing more and more that's not actually the case, that the body has been expressing to you for so long now, something's going on. I need you to help me. I need you to fix it. I'm sending you the messages. I'm sending you the warning signals. And if you're not going to listen, eventually the body's not going to do and support you the way it used to.
Yes, yes. I love that. When we take the time to sit with the feelings, they will usually, these feelings, this energy, this chi, will guide you to exactly what you need to feel. Maybe it'll take you to a sensation in your arm or in your hand that feels warm or feels tingly. But that, even though it seems like it's something that's like, it's just kind of, it's a small sensation, that alone is energy moving through your body. Because from Chinese medicine, we believe that we have meridians, we have these energetic channels that move through all up and down our body. Actually, energy is kind of going through these highways essentially. And when energy gets stuck, that's when we have dis-ease. That's what we say in Chinese medicine. So it definitely aligns with that understanding. When we don't move this energy, when we don't move emotions and feelings through the body, they get stuck and cause dis-ease and discomfort, right? And I think there's this big shift to understanding the communication that our body is telling us, the somatic work, the breath work that's asking us, inviting us back home into the body. Because our bodies, what I'm realizing a lot lately is like, we're always trying to restore a sense of safety, whether it's in our relationships, or being at home with all of our creature comforts. It's like we're beings of safety. And so I think what's important is that when we do any of this type of work, when we do breath work, when we do somatic experiencing, somatic work, just tuning into your body, breathing into the body, we also want to do it in a place where we're resourced, right? So what that means is also being connected to systems of support, like a guide or a mentor, or your support system, like your loved ones, your family, your pet, right? when we're coming from that place of, I feel supported, I feel safe in my social connections, in my home, with, you know, my creature comforts and those things, that's when we can go into these deeper places within ourselves. That's when we can face our shadows. So we don't want to just
Yeah.
jump into the deep end, going into the shadows, because that can be a lot for the system to take to handle as well. That can be very overwhelming. But
Especially
when
if
we
you've
can,
suppressed so much
yes,
trauma, right? If you suppressed a lot of trauma over the years, if you haven't felt anything, if you haven't dealt with what's
yes,
going on, or maybe you're not even fully aware. And
mm-hmm.
also, too, I think, to mention, like, there's also obviously, and you know this from Chinese medicine, we also hold over 255 imprints of our, grandparents and ancestors
Mm-hmm.
all deeply in our body as well. And so many
Yes,
times, I believe we are also processing for that family, for those ancestors. And that's the beauty of
mm-hmm.
healing. But that's also kind of the deeper wounds that you're speaking to as well that can come
Yes,
up from, what we are experiencing. So yeah, I agree with you. Having that safety, having that guide, for me, when I started really getting deep into breath work, I had, a facilitator I worked with, very consistently online because it was
mm-hmm.
2020 in California. So there wasn't going anywhere, but I was,
Yep,
doing it online, and I was learning and I was processing, and I felt very safe to be online with them and to feel held in that space and to know,
mm-hmm.
that I was okay. And then also that my husband was upstairs and my, baby was, sleeping, a toddler. And I was like, okay,
Yes,
I'm in my space, I'm at home and I feel comfortable. Right. And so it's like
mm-hmm.
really finding the people who are in that safety space, who understand trauma, understand what people are
Mm-hmm.
feeling in their body and what they're going through so they can process
Yes,
it accordingly.
yes. I love that you bring up this ancestral, this multi-generational healing that can come up when we're doing this type of work, because what Chinese medicine says is that we essentially get our qi, our life force, from the people who came before us, directly from the energy of our kidneys.
Mm.
And so the kidneys are also connected to the emotion of fear and trauma. So when we are in that place of
Yes, I've
processing
heard that
fear
before.
and trauma and shock and things that have happened to us in the past, we're also tapping into that very primordial place of like very, yeah, it's very like spiritual, multidimensional connection as well. So, I have actually worked with different people where they'll feel like an ancestor come in. I know that happens to me quite often where I'm like, I feel like this very collective energy. And that's very common too, because our lineage, what we're experiencing is indirectly is very much connected to what our ancestors have experienced. And so there's no separation. We are their living prayers. And I really feel like when we step into our authenticity and own all parts of ourselves in a very courageous and true way to each one of us, I believe that all of our ancestors are rooting us on when we're doing that. And I know that we've talked about this right when we started. You had mentioned when we're stepping into our authenticity, it means that we're embracing all aspects. What would you say to someone who feels blocked or feels insecure about leaning into their true self, passions, or purpose? What would you say, Ali?
Oh, yeah, that's a big question. Well, I would say you're going to feel resistance. I know I surely did. It
Mm,
was like the more truth that came up, the more of me wanting, like, God was truly guiding me of how to express myself, like what I was receiving, what I was knowing, and the wisdom that was within me. It was so much
mhm,
resistance. But I will tell you, once you start to move past that resistance, you'll start to actually feel lighter. You'll start to feel that light, like
mhm.
shining in your body, that energy within you that's going to light up, and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I feel so lit up. I feel so good in how I'm sharing. And I think that's a really good, like, kind of tell of like you're on the right track, you're on the right path, is when you feel that lighting up, when you feel that energy of like, oh my gosh, I don't really know what's going on, but that's the life force within us, right? That is the
Mm,
connection that's like coming online, and it's like, oh my gosh, this feels so good. I'm uncomfortable, but like somehow this feels good, this feels peaceful, this feels right. And that
yeah.
resistance that comes up at first is super real, and I'll be honest, like I fought it for a while. Like I really did. And honestly, the more I fought it, the harder things got in my life. And that was hard for me to,
Mm,
handle. And I share that because I think it's important to, share when it comes to the spiritual community too, is like so many people paint this as like it's just light and love and it's all good. And it's like yes, there's a lot of light and there is a lot of love, but there's also, like you said, there's shadows, there's darkness, there's so much that comes up when you start to actually realize like there's so much more to you. And I say that with encouragement, not to stop you, but understand the resistance is real. There is a lot that will come up that will try to essentially block you. And you just got to keep going, because what we resist persists. So it's like pushing past in a loving way with that resistance, feeling the fear and doing it anyway. And understanding that, for me, something that really helped me was like, fear is false evidence appearing real. I had to write that down, honestly, Lynn, like 100 times. So I got that through my brain, was like, this is not real. And the difference, obviously, right? There's fear and there's real danger. But like the fear that our brain is continuously, that subconscious program that's telling us over and over again, it can't happen, you can't do it, there's no way, whatever it is, the limiting beliefs, we all have them, from family and ancestors to our own beliefs. It's like you have to feel that fear and do it anyway. You have to speak your truth and lean into like, what am I receiving right now? Like, what is the medicine within me? Because we all have that medicine. And when you share your medicine, you're healing others and they're healing you. And I really believe like that's where we're coming to in the collective right now, is we're really being asked to be that, especially for those that are in this space of like, how much more truth can I speak? How much more can I essentially get uncomfortable and share to help others start to feel uncomfortable so they can step up and stand and they can feel their light and their authenticity. And I really believe that's where we are right now, because I think so much is shifting in our collective right now and just all over the world. And so many people need healing. And as uncomfortable as it may feel to share this opinion that's, not popular. And I get it, coming from the celebrity styling world and Hollywood world where everything I shared was quote unquote trendy and popular. Like that was hard for me, coming from that space and stepping into who I truly am and the authenticity of me. I'm not going to lie. Like I still have moments where I'm like, what am I doing? Like, this is so weird, but it feels right. Like that's what I would say. That's that real guidance, is like, it feels right. You feel it in your soul, your whole body, like feels at peace. Even if your mind is still trying to tell you like, this is not going to happen or this is not going to work, you can feel truly that wisdom within you that's telling you to go that direction. And I would just say, lean into that. Anything that is of faith, anything that is of God, that is of source, is going to give you peace. It's going to give you calm. It's going to give you reassurance. It's not going to be fear-based. Anything that is not of that. And that's not the authenticity of you.
Woo! Yes. Can you repeat that fear, the words?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah. Fear is false evidence appearing real.
Wow.
I really wrote that down for so long, because it took when I was in 2020, when I was, during the, crazy time in the world, and had, my pregnancy with Arlie, and I wanted to have a VBAC, and I was told, it probably wasn't going to happen. I had a C-section with Amelia, and fear just kept coming up and coming up and coming up. And I had to keep writing that down and telling my brain, like, it's not real. Like this, I can do this. My body is built to birth. I can do this. And it was breath work. I know I've told you, privately, like it was breath work that made the huge shift when it came down to actually pushing her out and having her, she got stuck like Amelia did at the end. And my body remembered the trauma. My body was holding what we spoke to, of like, it's just holding all that hasn't been resolved. And I guess even though I had done some healing work, there was still a lot more to, I'm sure, resolve, as my body still had a lot of trauma from the first birth that I went through. And it wasn't until I dropped in so deeply in my knowing in my body and started breathing deeply and using my exercises and connecting and praying and trusting that like I had that faith in that moment, I knew I could do it, that she came through. And even my doctor was like shocked. Like he was like, wow, like you did it, 9 pounds, 3 ounces. She's here. Like my husband was in shock. Everybody was in shock. And it was like, oh my gosh, like this is life-changing. Like when you have that faith and you don't lean into the fear and you don't allow it to stop you, like then you realize like who you truly are. You realize how powerful you truly are. And like you said, that life force that is within you and all around you, it's like, it's real. Like it's real.
So
and
it's amazing because in Chinese medicine, each organ is associated with an emotion. So with kidneys, it's often known as fear, but on the other side, there's virtues also associated with emotion, with certain emotions and organs. With the kidney, it's willpower. It's our ability to will something and to like hone in on that really strong life force energy and say like, no, I trust that I can do this. I believe in my power. And I hear you really saying that and now being the embodiment of that and bringing that into what you create in your community and also motherhood. Can you speak a little bit more about how your personal evolution, everything that you've been saying, has changed the way you serve now?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. And it's like you could feel it, right? Like energy doesn't lie. Like you can
Yes.
feel that energy. And that's what we all have within us when we get out of the anxiousness and the worry and the stress and everything that holds us back from that. I would just
Mm-hmm.
say in my own life, I do things from a place of faith, period. Like I do not operate from fear anymore. I used to be someone who, no matter what was going on, it was always linked back to fear. It was like, oh, what
Mm-hmm.
could happen? What might happen, worry about this. It could be as small as going out, and being somewhere and worrying about what could happen, or it could be
Yeah.
as big as like, I'm not going to create that program because, this isn't going to work. Like whatever it is, it was always in a fear-based situation. Or like if an opportunity came, right? Like even in like work, like if I don't take this right now, I'll
Mm-hmm.
never get this chance again. And I started finally realizing
Mm.
like that was such a limiting belief and such a block with the
Yes.
fear of like, if it's really meant for you, it's always going to be there for you. It's always going
Mm.
to be. It may not show up the same way. It may not look the way you think it's going to, but it's always going to be there for you because it's truly meant for you. You can't miss what's meant for you. That's something I've
Yeah.
had to really lean into and learn the hard way. And, I think with motherhood, it's just really, I had a home birth with my son in 2022. And very similar, he had shoulder dystocia at the end of the birth. He got stuck very similarly, which was very interesting to kind of now watch, being the observer of my own self of like Amelia got stuck. Arlie got stuck at the end, and then Abel had shoulder dystocia. Like clearly, I'm still working through, a lot of that within that, and I'm still working through what that fully is. But I think the
Mm-hmm.
fact that I was able to, in that moment, surrender, have an incredible midwife team who was like, just breathe and trust, and like he will come through. That I was like, in
Yes.
that moment, I just surrendered. I started doing my deep breathing. I started praying and trusting. Like I had all the faith that nothing was going to go wrong and he was going to come through. And he did,
Mm.
and he was
Mm.
born at home and all was well.
Yeah.
And I think that in those moments is where we really see like, do I have the faith, right? Like my bank account may not reflect what I think I'm actually supposed to be making, but like, do I have the faith that it's going to change because I am being who I authentically am? And I think for a
Mm.
lot of people and the world that teaches us, like we're taught that it's seeing it. Is that how you're going to be able to move through in life? But it's really not. It's kind of an illusion because that's just like a false hope. And I feel like COVID kind of taught us that, right? Like
Yeah.
2020 happened and no one was in control. There was nothing you could do and you were just kind of stuck. And I feel like for those of us who really kind of, have embraced this role of being these way showers and these light workers and whatever you want to call us as guides,
Mm-hmm.
we've really embraced that and used that to be like, okay, I know I'm not in control. I'm not even going to try to be. I'm going to trust. I'm going to have faith and I'm going to continue on
Mm-hmm.
the path of where I know I'm going because that is the ultimate mission for my soul. And I think once
Yes.
you operate from your soul, it's just a different story. There's no
Yes.
judgment. There's no, I tell us to, people will say to me like, oh, the light workers are, above. And I'm like, no, 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 no. That's not what this is at all. It's we choose
Mm-hmm.
our soul. We choose this
Mm.
mission of maybe being a little less of the trendy side. We choose the
Yes.
unpopular opinion because we know and we see what the future is going to be. And we want to
Mm.
be a way shower in that space. And we want to be a safe harbor and a comfort for those who continue to choose healing,
Yes.
who continue to choose themselves, choose God, choose their authenticity of their soul.
Mm. I love this so much. Thank you so much. I want to be mindful of your time here. I want to ask you some quick fire questions before
Sure.
we come to a close. And I just want to say thank you, Ali, for being such a force, being such a strong embodiment of this work, the work that you do, the work that you're here, and how you're here to be of service to the world. I want to thank you so much for just showing up because this alone, your words, your power, all of the life force energy that's coming forward through you is going to inspire somebody. And this is why I do this podcast. This is why I do this work as well, because if we can speak it and shift it for somebody and help inspire them to like step into their power, that's what we're here for. So
I know, that's why I love the name of your podcast. Like Soulthentic, I think is like seriously the most amazing name ever. And
yes.
thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be here. And yeah, I just
Yeah.
think for anyone listening or, watching, it's like just lean into, that true wisdom within. Like ask yourself, like, am I operating out of fear or am I operating in faith? Like, am I trusting
Mm.
in that life force? Am I trusting in God? Am I trusting in my soul? Or am I
Mm-hmm.
operating from the ego? Am I operating from a place of like just complete disconnect? And again,
Yes.
there's no judgment or shame around it. It's just when we choose to have that awareness, everything starts to change and you find that peace within yourself, no matter what's going on.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Let me ask you a quick question before we get off. What are some books or resources that have inspired you lately?
Oh, lately. Okay, let's see. I love Dr. Joe Dispenza. Dr. Joe is amazing.
Yes.
His book, the Superhuman, I think is incredible. I've been going back to that one recently.
Mm-hmm.
I love Bob Proctor as well and his teachings. I've been reading his book, Born to be Rich, recently, and I really love. He just really speaks to like our soul and who we
Mm.
are with God and God being through us and what that really means and abundance in our lives and not just
Mm.
rich in finances, but just rich in general. It's really
Yes.
beautiful. And what else would I say? What else have
Well,
I
I
been
can ask you
reading?
another question.
Yeah, okay.
What tips or methods can you share to anyone who's interested in getting into breath work? And maybe you can share where people can reach out and find you.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Yeah. So I have my own app. So I would be honored if you would check out my app called Breathe and Be, just BREATHE and the
Yes.
letter B. It's all about being in your being and unplugging from the doing. It's on App
Mm.
Store and Google Play. And you can subscribe and get like over 25 breathwork exercises, meditations,
Amazing.
community, all of that. Um, and you can also book a call with me if you want to just chat. I have my link. I'm sure you'll put it in my profile, but it's there. You'll see it
Yes.
just says book a call with me. Book a free call and let's chat and talk about what you're going through and how I can help you and be of service. I also have a breathwork
Mhm.
challenge starting in August that I'm super excited about, where you drop in for an immersive 22 days and get to really experience what this is like when you commit to breathing deeply for 22 days and how it shifts your life. That's
Woo,
called my best challenge. Yes, it's
that's
amazing.
amazing.
It's such a fun, transformative container. And I would just say, if you're, not ready to come and work with a guide yet, just start to breathe, like catch yourself and have awareness with your breath. Are you holding your breath? Are you shallow breathing? Are you not even noticing how you're breathing? Like just
Hmm.
start to notice there
Yes.
is that in the body and go from there.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, Ali. And I feel like this entire conversation, you've been answering the question, what does it mean to be your soul self? But is there any last words that you want to share on that question?
Sure. I would just say, like, your power is who you are authentically. Like the authenticity
Mm,
is you is your superpower. Like
yes.
it's like I think for so long for me, it took me so long to share who I authentically was, and I was like afraid to, which I think most of us are. And once I did, it was like everything started to open up, and I was like, oh, this is who I am. This is who I'm meant to be. There is no filter. There is, and
Hmm.
embrace that, love that. We're all uniquely ourselves, and that is the gift of choosing you as your soul. So yeah.
Woo! Thank you so much, Ali, for coming onto Authentic Podcast. I want to thank everyone who came in and tuned in. Everything, all the resources that Ali spoke about and how to reach out to Ali is going to be in the show notes. And I want to thank you for everyone who tuned in. Thank you, Ali, for showing up, giving us your gems of wisdom. You are such an inspiration to so many. And I want to thank you. Thank you again. Thank you all. And we will catch you on the next episode.
Thank you so
Bye,
much.
everyone.
important to, you know, share when it comes to the spiritual community too, is like so many people paint this as like it's just light and love and it's all good. And it's like, yes, there's a lot of light and there is a lot of love, but there's also, like you said, there's shadows, there's darkness, there's so much that comes up when you start to actually realize like there's so much more to you. And I say that with encouragement, not to stop you, but understand the resistance is real. There is a lot that will come up that will try to essentially block you. And you just got to keep going, because what we resist persists. So it's like pushing past in a loving way with that resistance, feeling the fear and doing it anyway. And understanding that, you know, for me, something that really helped me was like, fear is false evidence appearing real. I had to write that down, honestly, Lynn, like 100 times. So I got that through my brain, was like, this is not real. And the difference, obviously, right? There's fear and there's real danger. But like the fear that our brain is continuously, that subconscious program that's telling us over and over again, it can't happen, you can't do it, there's no way, whatever it is, the limiting beliefs, we all have them, from family and ancestors to our own beliefs. It's like you have to feel that fear and do it anyway. You have to speak